Here we are back to Viking adventure. Today we start with the hut. Remember, he is in a little tub, a butter tub like this. It's floating through the water, okay, because Aaron helped me get out of the boat. Sigurd could see nothing except the light on the island. Tried to steer toward it. He put his hand into the water and tried to row, but there was no way to steer the tub. There was no way to row. The tub rode the water like a cork. Right? It's tipping and rocking through Sigurd from side to side. He was not sure he was drifting toward the island. He could no longer see the light. He thought, this tub cannot carry me far. It will soon sink or turn over. There's a small chance that it will take me to shore. Yet for the first time in weeks he felt free. He had escaped from the ship. He was out of Halford's reach. The wind was rising. The roar of the sea grew deep and loud. Ivar had seen a new storm was in the air. The storm had finally come. The tub rose and fell and rose again. It rode wave after wave. Then Sigurd felt himself spun around as if he were caught in a whirlpool. There was a crash and a sound of breaking wood. The tub fell apart. Sigurd tried to swim. His clothes dragged him down. Numb with cold, he fought to keep his head above water. He sank and his feet touched land. He took a step. A wave pushed him forward and he fell. When he picked himself up, he was out of the water. He began to crawl. Can you pretend to crawl? He began to crawl, sometimes walking, sometimes crawling. He made his way over rocks and sand. The wind tore his clothes. Rain began to fall. In the darkness, he came up against a large rock. He lay down beside it out of the wind. There he waited for the storm and the night to pass. When the morning broke, the day was still. Sigurd was stiff with cold. It was hard for him to move. Slowly, he got to his feet. He looked out to the sea. There were rocks rising out of the water. The tub had struck one of them. He began to walk away from the sea. The land was rocky and bare. Among the rocks, he saw a long-haired sheep with a bell hanging from its neck. The sheep looked at him and ran away. Sigurd found a path and followed it. He was warmer now. It was easier for him to walk. He kept on until he saw someone on the path ahead. It was a man. He was small and bent and old, and his clothes were all rags and patches. "Well met," said Sigurd. "Who are you?" asked the old man. "You were no island boy." "I came from a ship," said Sigurd. "Ah, you were in a storm." The old man came close to him. "Are you hurt?" "No," said Sigurd, "but if you know of a place where I could rest." "My hut is near," said the old man. He led the way to the hut on the side of a hill. His wife, as small and bent and old as he, made Sigurd a bed by the fire. "Now then, now, my fine boy," she kept saying quietly. Sigurd went to sleep. When he woke, the hut was full of people. They were looking at him. "Were you the only one saved?" asked the man. "Saved?" Sigurd tried to understand. "Are you not from the Viking ship that was wrecked?" asked the man. "Wrecked, did you say?" Sigurd sat up. "Surely you must know the ship was wrecked," said the man. "Pieces of it are still coming to shore," said another man. "Where? I must see." Sigurd was on his feet. Lie down," said the old woman. "No, let me see," said Sigurd. He went with them to the shore. They showed him the broken wood and torn sailcloth. There they are at the shore, looking at the remains of a battered and broken ship. Oh, it must break Sigurd's heart, because that would mean Aron sank with the ship too, his friend. "This was my ship," he said. "Was no one saved?" "We have seen no one," said a man. "Only you." Sigurd stood there, looking out to sea. The old man came to his side. "Will you come with me now?" Sigurd went with him back to the hut. Wow. Well, Here's the last part of the story. Shall we go ahead and finish the story today? Let's give it a shot. The old man and his wife were kind to Sigurd. Poor as they were, they shared their food with him. He helped them in return. He kept the fire burning. He dug paths in the deep snows. All through the islands, people spoke of him. He alone was saved from the wreck, they said. Some of them came to the hut to hear his story. I was not aboard when the ship was wrecked, he told them. The captain was my enemy, and I left the ship to save my life. A foolish captain, surely, said the people, to sail these waters in the time of the winter storms. Where had this voyage taken you? To Vineland, he said. Do you mean Greenland? They asked. Is Vineland another name for Iceland? No, he said. Vineland is a land far beyond. But he could not make them understand. In the spring, he said goodbye to the old man and his wife. He went to the harbor. There in the little town, he waited for a ship from home. One came at last. Sigurd asked the captain, will you take me to Norway? The captain saw that Sigurd was tall and strong. You may go with us, he said. We need a rower. Sigurd told the captain his story. The captain listened and said nothing. Some of the sailors began to talk of Vineland. You, Sigurd, they said, you were there. Tell us how it is. He saw that they were laughing. They did not believe his story. He would not answer them. On the week's voyage he did his work, but he said little. The ship anchored at the port of Con. As Sigurd walked through the village, he saw a face he knew. It was the face of his cousin Rolf. Remember Rolf? He called to him, Rolf, do you remember me? Do you remember the lessons we had together? I remember, said Rolf. He was still not friendly. Where have you been? To Vineland, said Sigurd. I shipped with Gorm, and I am the only one to come home. All the way to Vineland, said Rolf. And since no one else came home, you can tell the story as you like. Once Sigurd would have fought him for his words. Now he only said, So you do not believe. It does not matter. I know what I have seen, and no one can take it from me. He left the town. He walked by day and slept under the sky by night. People along the way gave him food. On the second day he came to Torvik. On the third day he came in sight of home. The dogs barked at him as if he were a stranger. He carried a stick and he swung it among them until they drew back. He went up to the house, and a servant looked out at him. The young master, cried the servant. He is here, the young master. Sigurd's sisters came running to the door. Then they stopped and looked at each other. Sigurd saw sadness in their eyes. What is it? He asked. They put their arms around him and led him inside. His mother was there. Sigurd, I hear your voice, but I could not believe it was you. It is so long since you went away, she asked. Have you the girls told you? Told me what? He asked. Your father, she began. She saw the tears on her face. He asked, Is my father dead? Yes, she said. Sigurd asked, When did he die? Not long after you went away, she said. His wound had never healed and... I understand, said Sigurd. He went into the great hall. It seemed he had been away for many years. He walked past the shields and swords on the wall. He stood before his father's chair. His mother had come into the hall. We need you, Sigurd. You are the man here now. I know, and I shall stay. He asked, Is old Bard still with us? Yes, said his mother, but he is old and very weak. See, there's Sigurd with his two sisters and his mother. Sigurd went to the old man's room. Bard was sitting by the window. He was bending over a book with his face close to its pages. So he'd been like this because he didn't have any glasses. Looking like that. Can you see me looking at a book? Trying to see the words. Bard, said Sigurd. The old man looked up. My young friend, he said, have you come home? Yes, I have come to stay, said Sigurd. Stand in the light, said Bard, so I may see you better. Sigurd went to the window. Bard gazed at him. Ah, you have been far. You have had adventures. I see it in your eyes. I've had a great adventure. Sigurd looked at the books on the table. Bard, could my story be written? Could it go into a book so that others could read it? The old man put out his hands. They had grown stiff. His fingers were would hardly bend. I cannot write. I cannot write it for you, he said. Can you teach me writing? Asked Sigurd. Is it too late? It is not too late, said Bard. I will write my story, said Sigurd. Many will not believe it, but some day a man will read my words and believe them. He will read of the land I have seen, and he will go there. He will go in peace, and it will be a great land for him. Will you tell your story? Asked Bard. May I hear it now? Yes, said Sigurd. Together they went into the great hall. Sigurd's mother and sisters were waiting. Some of the servants had come to the door to watch and listen. The dragon chair had been drawn up in front of the fire. Sigurd looked at his mother. She nodded her head. He sat down in the chair. For a little while, he sat there thinking. Then he began to tell his story. And there we have it. Viking Adventure by Clyde Robert Vula. It was illustrated by Douglas Gorsline. I hope you enjoyed that. Well, I'll be off to reading more adventures starting tomorrow with another series. Till then, bye.